Once a global powerhouse, the United States now barely registers on the shipbuilding map, capturing only a fraction of the market while rivals like China dominate the oceans. Can America overcome decades of neglect, outdated facilities, and a shrinking skilled workforce to rebuild a fleet worthy of its ambitions? In the shadow of giant cranes and rising steel plates, a quiet revolution is underway. Foreign investors are pouring billions to modernize old yards, new technologies promise to transform production, and a hard-fought battle for talent begins. This is the story of how a nation decides whether to sink or sail in the modern maritime world. The collapse of U.S. shipbuilding. For decades, the United States led the world in shipbuilding, powering its military and commercial fleets with ships crafted on home soil. But today, the industry is a shadow of its former self, crippled by aging facilities, outdated manufacturing techniques, and a severe shortage of skilled workers. What once was a daily output of ships now barely produces one a year, leaving the nation struggling to keep pace with global demands. This decline didn't happen overnight. It was a slow unraveling driven by lost subsidies, neglected infrastructure, and an inability to modernize that left the U.S. trailing far behind. Subsidies that once supported shipyards dried up in the 1980s, opening the floodgates for cheaper foreign competition, particularly from countries willing to heavily back their own shipbuilding sectors. Without that financial and policy support, the industry failed to invest in new technology or workforce development. The result is a fleet half of which is outdated, with more than 50% of naval vessels older than 20 years, and commercial shipbuilding virtually collapsed. The gap between what U.S. yards once built and what remains today creates an urgent need to rebuild, but that task is more complex and challenging than many realize. Despite these challenges, the signposts of revival are now emerging in some yards, fueled by new investments and a push to catch up. Yet before exploring these hopeful developments, it's important to understand the vast lead now held by international competitors. This leads us to the massive global market where U.S. capacity is dwarfed, revealing just how far behind America has fallen. Global shipbuilding leaders and market share today, China dominates the commercial shipbuilding world, commanding more than half of the global market share with a staggering 53%. South Korea and Japan follow, each boasting massive, highly efficient shipyards capable of producing dozens of large, complex vessels annually. By comparison, the United States accounts for a mere 0.1% of commercial shipbuilding capacity. China alone operates more than 200 shipyards, dwarfing the roughly 150 U.S. yards nationwide. This gulf highlights the scale of the challenge facing the U.S. industry as it tries to regain even a fraction of its former strength. The difference in scale reflects not only investment but also the industrial ecosystems these countries have developed over decades. South Korean shipyards, for example, employ tens of thousands of skilled workers and churn out up to 50 ships a year, ranging from LNG carriers to military vessels. Meanwhile, U.S. yards often struggle with smaller orders, fewer workers, and limited automation. This disparity isn't just about numbers, it represents a fundamental shift in maritime manufacturing leadership and global trade dynamics. Understanding those rules is key to grasping both the constraints and opportunities the U.S. industry faces moving forward. The Jones Act and domestic shipbuilding rules. The Jones Act is a cornerstone of U.S. maritime policy, requiring that vessels engaged in domestic trade be built and assembled entirely in the United States, using mostly American components. This law aims to protect the U.S. merchant marine and shipbuilding industry by ensuring the economic benefits of domestic commerce stay within the country. While it creates a guaranteed market for American shipbuilders, the Act also presents challenges related to cost and competitiveness. Because Jones Act vessels must comply with strict domestic content and labor rules, they tend to be significantly more expensive, costing 6 to 8 times more to build and 2 to 3 times more to operate than foreign-flagged ships. This drives up prices for shipping companies, making it harder for U.S.-built vessels to compete internationally or even on cost-sensitive routes. In addition, the limited number of orders and the high costs slow down innovation and investment in U.S. yards, creating a cycle that keeps the industry from scaling up effectively. Despite these hurdles, the Jones Act market remains an essential lifeline, supporting about half of U.S. shipbuilding output, especially for tankers, LNG carriers, and Navy vessels. It also sets the foundation for investments underway to modernize and expand capacity. As we explore how these factors intersect, the story of new investments and international partnerships brings a fresh wave of hope to U.S. shipyards. Speaking of exploring, make sure you explore our channel more by clicking the like and subscribe button. Revitalizing old yards with foreign investment. In a hopeful turn, foreign investment is breathing new life into America's aging shipyards, signaling a potential comeback for an industry long in decline. South Korea's Hanwha Ocean, for example, purchased Philly Shipyard in 2024 for $100 million and plans to inject $5 billion more to modernize infrastructure, boost automation, and expand production capabilities. This ambitious overhaul aims to transform a once money-losing yard into a state-of-the-art facility capable of building everything from Jones Act tankers to export-grade LNG vessels and even Navy ships. The vision is bold, to shift from producing just 1 to 1.5 ships a year to as many as 20 annually. Hanwha's efforts come alongside other international players like Italian company Fincantieri, which acquired shipyards on the Great Lakes and invested over $800 million to upgrade facilities and increase workforce size. Fincantieri's yards now build a range of complex vessels, including combat ships, icebreakers, and cruise liners, highlighting how foreign expertise and capital are vital to revitalizing U.S. shipbuilding. These companies bring not just money, but decades of experience, technologies, and efficient production models that can accelerate America's catch-up. Yet, even with investment and modernization, these yards face stiff competition from global shipbuilding giants with far greater scale and resources. Despite this momentum, challenges remain. Maintaining a steady, skilled workforce is a constant hurdle, with employees coming and going and strong competition for expert welders and engineers. A vital part of this resurgence depends on overcoming the workforce gap, where the shortage of skilled professionals threatens the industry's growth and survival. Workforce and skill shortages. One of the most urgent challenges in reviving U.S. shipbuilding lies in the scarcity of qualified workers, especially welders, naval engineers, and skilled tradespeople central to ship construction. In 2023, the industry employed just over 105,000 people nationwide, but projections suggest an additional 174,000 workers will be needed in the coming decade to meet Navy goals alone. This shortfall is exacerbated by an aging workforce, strong competition from other industries, and relatively low average wages, about $54,000 a year for ship welders in the U.S., starkly lower than the six-figure compensation packages offered by companies like Hanwha. To close this gap, companies are investing heavily in training programs and international skill transfers. Hanwha sends its American workers to South Korea for immersive training with seasoned tradesmen, accelerating the transfer of expertise needed to build complex ships in American yards. Similarly, Italian shipbuilder Fincantieri relies on family legacy and extensive in-house expertise to teach precise shipbuilding crafts. But training is only part of the solution. Attracting talent to an industry known for difficult, physically demanding conditions remains a persistent challenge. Workers often operate in tight, uncomfortable spaces, performing complicated tasks like welding in awkward positions while ensuring safety and precision. This shortage doesn't just threaten production timelines, it directly impacts national security and energy infrastructure projects that rely on timely shipbuilding output. Technology and innovation now offers fresh hope by redefining what shipbuilding can look like and how quickly it can evolve. Technology and innovation in shipbuilding new technologies are reshaping the future of U.S. shipbuilding, offering a chance to leapfrog decades of lost ground. Automation and robotics are increasingly integrated into the construction process, speeding up work that once took days into hours. For instance, robotic welding systems now programmatically execute tasks that previously required long hours of skilled manual labor, improving both speed and quality. These advances reduce human error, enhance safety, and allow yards to do more with less, helping to offset the challenges of a tight labor market. Beyond robots, modular construction is transforming how ships are built by breaking them down into large, precise sections that can be assembled separately and then joined like giant Lego pieces. This approach not only shortens build times, but also enables multiple parts of a ship to be worked on simultaneously at different facilities. Some American yards are adopting a cooperative production model where sections made overseas are barged to U.S. yards for final assembly, accelerating production and skills transfer. Coupled with augmented and virtual reality training programs, these technologies are speeding up workforce development and ensuring that workers gain the complex skills needed for modern shipbuilding. However, technology alone won't revive the industry without a resilient supply chain to provide everything from steel and cables to millions of fasteners required for each vessel. Rebuilding this industrial base is crucial as the U.S. faces global competition and supply chain uncertainties. The collapse of U.S. shipbuilding was steep, but the push to rebuild combines investment, innovation, and workforce development in unprecedented ways. This industry isn't just about ships. It's about economic strength, security, and global leadership. If you found this journey through America's shipbuilding revival compelling, please like and subscribe for more stories that cut beneath the surface.